The order said, "Leave at door," but when he texted, "Wait, please," I never imagined that doorway would lead to my future. One $12 delivery changed everything. I was just trying to make rent. Instead, I found home. This is how fate arrived, neatly packaged in takeout containers. If you've ever wondered if your everyday routine could lead to something extraordinary, hit that subscribe button. My story might just give you the hope or courage to say yes to that unexpected opportunity. Trust me, sometimes the best tips aren't just cash. 6 months ago, my life revolved around the constant ping of delivery notifications. Wake up, check the app, accept orders, drive, deliver, repeat. My car, a 2008 Honda that had seen better days, doubled as my office, filled with the lingering scent of other people's dinners. Between student loans and rent in a city that seemed determined to price me out, food delivery wasn't my dream job, just the thing keeping my lights on. Most days blurred together. I'd watch through windows as families gathered around dining tables, couples clinked wine glasses, or solo diners settled in with their shows. I was the faceless person who made their evening convenient, then disappeared. Thank you. Texts and occasional tips were the highlights of my shifts. My social life? Practically non-existent. Dating? A luxury I couldn't afford, in terms of both time and emotional energy. Then came order number 217, an ordinary Thursday. Sushi from that place downtown with the blue neon sign. The address was in that converted warehouse apartment building. You know, the one where they try to make industrial look cozy. The delivery instructions read, "Leave at door, apartment 3B. Thanks. Standard contactless delivery. Nothing special." When I got to 3B, something caught my eye. A doormat that said "plot twist" with a little arrow pointing to the door. I remember thinking it was kind of clever as I arranged his California rolls and miso soup on the mat, snapped the confirmation photo, and turned to leave. That's when I heard a voice through the door. "Hey! Sorry, but could you wait just a second?" I paused, already mentally calculating how this delay would affect my next pickup. The door opened, and there he was, tall, slightly disheveled, glasses slightly askew. "I just realized I forgot to add a tip in the app," he said, fumbling for his wallet. Our eyes met briefly, and he smiled, the kind that reaches the eyes. "Delivery drivers are basically keeping me alive these days," he joked, handing me a 10. For some reason, that interaction stuck with me. Maybe it was the genuine appreciation in his voice, rare in this line of work. Or maybe it was just that he saw me as a person, not just a service. Over the next few weeks, I delivered to 3B 4 more times. Always different restaurants, always the same plot twist doormat. Small coincidences in a city of millions. Each time the interactions got a little longer, a little more personal. He remembered my name from the app. Asked if I got caught in that terrible rain last Tuesday. Mentioned that the Thai place I delivered from was his favorite. Then came the night that changed everything. A massive thunderstorm had knocked out power in half the city, including my apartment. I was soaked, miserable, but still delivering. Bills don't care about weather. His order came through. Soup and grilled cheese from that comfort food place near the park. When I arrived at 3B, the building was dark except for the warm glow of candles coming from under his door. I knocked this time instead of just leaving it. He opened the door surrounded by that gentle candlelight, looking surprised to see me standing there rather than just receiving the usual delivery notification. "You're drenched," he said, genuine concern in his voice. Before I could respond, the sky cracked with thunder so loud I actually jumped. "Do you want to come in? Just until the storm passes?" he asked. "I've got a towel and hot coffee. Seems like the least I can do for the person who braved a monsoon to bring me dinner." I hesitated. This wasn't protocol, but something about him felt safe, trustworthy, and honestly, the thought of sitting in my cold, dark apartment alone was less appealing than accepting his offer. "I'm Ryan, by the way," he said, extending his hand. "I know your name from the app, but it feels weird to use it without a proper introduction." "Mia," I replied, stepping across that threshold. "Thanks for the rescue." And just like that, I wasn't just delivering his food anymore. I was entering his world. That rainy night in Ryan's apartment changed something. We talked for hours as the storm raged outside, the candlelight casting shadows across his living room. He was an architect, hence the appreciation for that converted warehouse building, and I told him about my graphic design degree that I was still paying for while chasing freelance gigs between deliveries. When the storm finally passed and the lights flickered back on, it felt like waking from a dream. I left with dry clothes, a full stomach. He'd insisted on sharing his food, and something I hadn't expected, his number. For 3 days, I stared at his contact in my phone, thumb hovering over the message button. What was I doing? He was a customer. There had to be some ethical line I was crossing, but then my phone buzzed with a text from him. Just checking you didn't float away in the storm. Also, that soup place has a new sandwich that's supposedly life-changing. Thought you should know, professional courier and all. Our texts started casual, mostly food recommendations and weather updates. Then came memes, inside jokes about certain restaurants, and eventually real conversations about our lives, dreams, disappointments. Digital communication has this strange intimacy. The safety of distance makes honesty easier sometimes. Late-night texts evolved into good morning messages, all while I continued delivering other people's food to other people's doors, wondering if any of them were having conversations that made their heart race like mine did. After 2 weeks of this, he asked if I wanted to meet for coffee. Not at my place this time. Someplace neutral, no power outages required. I said yes immediately, then spent the next 3 days overthinking everything. What if the magic only existed in text messages and rain-soaked evenings? What if daylight and reality ruined whatever this was? We met at this tiny cafe where they roast their own beans, the kind of place with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. I got there 15 minutes early and still found him already waiting, 2 ceramic mugs on the table instead of to-go cups. A small gesture that said, "I'm not rushing this." He looked different in daylight, more real somehow, less like the mysterious figure from a candlelit apartment. There was an awkward moment when we both hesitated between a hug or handshake, ending in this weird half-embrace that made us both laugh, and that laughter broke the tension. "So weird seeing you without a takeout bag," he said, sliding a mug toward me. "Weird being somewhere without hearing that app notification sound every 30 seconds, I replied. What was supposed to be a quick coffee turned into 3 hours. We moved from casual conversation to deeper waters. His parents' divorce that made him value stability, my mother's illness that taught me resilience. Somewhere between the second refill and sharing a slice of banana bread, I realized I wasn't thinking about him as that customer from 3B anymore. He was just Ryan, the guy who talked with his hands when excited, who had strong opinions about serif fonts, who listened like everything I said mattered. As we left the cafe, he walked me to my car, my delivery chariot, as he jokingly called it. Standing there, keys in hand, I felt suddenly self-conscious about my beat-up Honda with its collection of food delivery stickers and lingering scent of French fries. "You know," he said, leaning against my car door, "I've never been on the other side of the food delivery experience. Maybe sometime I could bring dinner to you." The role reversal wasn't lost on me. Customer becoming deliverer, stranger becoming something else. It felt significant, crossing an invisible boundary. "I'd like that," I said. "But fair warning, my apartment doesn't have a clever doormat." "I'll bring one," he replied with a smile. "Consider it a housewarming gift." When I got home that night, I logged into the delivery app and went to my settings. For the first time since starting this job, I blocked a specific address from my delivery queue. Not because I didn't want to go there, but because I wanted any future visits to 3B to be personal, not professional. I was no longer just the woman who delivered his dinner. I was someone he wanted to share dinner with. The following Friday, he showed up at my door with 2 bags from my favorite Thai place, which I'd mentioned during our coffee date, and, true to his word, a doormat that read, "The plot thickens." Standing there watching him arrange spring rolls on my coffee table, I realized how rarely I'd had someone in my space who wasn't a roommate or a delivery person themselves. My apartment had been just a place to crash between shifts. Now it was the setting for whatever story we were beginning to write. Dating Ryan felt like discovering a city I'd been living in for years, but had somehow never really seen. We created this ritual of exploring restaurants I'd delivered from, but never eaten at, laughing about how I knew the delivery entrances better than the front doors. Sometimes we'd run into restaurant staff who recognized me, their confusion evident when they saw me sitting at a table instead of grabbing an order to go. "She's on the other side now," Ryan would say with a wink, making me feel like I'd been initiated into some secret club. Our inside jokes revolved around delivery culture, birthday gifts wrapped in thermal bags, rating each other's cooking on a 5-star app scale, leaving delivery instructions for each other on sticky notes. There's something beautiful about building a relationship on the foundation of such an ordinary thing. How the mundane becomes sacred when it's part of your origin story. The first time Ryan said, "I love you," we were in his car, stuck in traffic. I was ranting about a particularly frustrating customer who had given me the wrong address 3 times. Mid-sentence, he just turned to me and said it, like he couldn't hold it in anymore. Not planned, not in a romantic setting, just honest. I remember the feeling that rushed through me, like every delivery I'd ever made had been leading me to that exact moment, to that exact traffic jam, to him. But our relationship wasn't all romantic movie moments. Ryan's world and mine were different in ways that sometimes created friction. His friends were established professionals who owned homes and took international vacations. Mine were gig workers and aspiring creatives who compared notes on which apps paid best. The first time I joined one of his architect firm's dinner parties, I felt like I was undercover, like any moment someone would recognize me as the person who delivered their pad thai last month. "What do you do?" The dreaded question came from one of Ryan's colleagues, wineglass in hand, designer watch catching the light. Before I could answer with my usual vague response about freelance work, Ryan stepped in. "Me as a graphic designer who's been keeping the entire city fed while pursuing her creative career." The way he said it, with such genuine admiration, made me see my delivery work through new eyes. Not just a stopgap, but testament to resilience. Later that night, Ryan confessed he'd been nervous about me meeting his friends. "Not because of you," he clarified quickly, "because sometimes they can be judgmental about things that don't fit their narrow definition of success." That conversation led to deeper ones about class, opportunity, and the different paths we take in life. How his straight line to success had its own emptiness. How my winding road had given me perspectives he valued. My friends were skeptical at first. "So you're dating a delivery customer? Isn't that like against the rules?" my roommate Jade asked. But they warmed to him when they saw how he treated me. Not as a project or a novelty, but as an equal he genuinely admired. The night he showed up to our game night with his architect friends in tow, deliberately creating a bridge between our worlds, I felt a depth to our relationship I hadn't expected. My mom was a tougher sell. Having watched me struggle to make ends meet, she was protective, suspicious of his intentions. "He could order from anywhere," she said during one of our weekly calls. "Why was he ordering so much from your delivery zone?" I couldn't blame her skepticism. Life had taught her that things that seem too good to be true usually are. The turning point came when Ryan helped me move to a new apartment. My mom showed up unexpected, probably to assess the situation, and found him meticulously organizing my design supplies, labeling boxes according to a system we'd created together. Later, she pulled me aside and whispered, "Anyone who respects your work like that is worth keeping." Coming from her, this was the highest endorsement possible. Our 6-month anniversary arrived faster than I expected. Time moves differently when you're no longer counting it in delivery shifts. Ryan had been secretive for days, planning something he wouldn't reveal. When the day came, he blindfolded me and drove us somewhere. I could smell familiar scents as we walked. Soy sauce, ginger, that distinctive aroma of a place I'd visited dozens of times as a courier. When he removed the blindfold, we were standing in the sushi restaurant from my very first delivery to him. The manager greeted us by name. Ryan had arranged everything and led us to a private corner table adorned with candles and flowers. The table number? 3B. The detail nearly brought me to tears. "From your hands to my door to my table. Now to our table," Ryan said, raising a glass of sake. "To the best wrong turn the delivery app ever sent you on." Sitting across from him, I thought about all the deliveries I'd made, all the doorways I'd approached and left, never knowing what was happening on the other side. For once, I was on the inside looking out, not the outside looking in. My phone vibrated in my purse. Another delivery request from the app I still worked with occasionally. I silenced it without looking. Tonight, I wasn't delivering anything. Tonight, I was exactly where I was meant to be. It's been exactly 1 year since that stormy night when I stepped into apartment 3B for the first time. Sometimes I look back and marvel at how something so random became the center of my world. If the app had assigned that order to another driver, if Ryan had chosen a different restaurant that night, if the storm hadn't knocked out my power, our paths might never have crossed. Life hangs on these delicate threads of chance, these tiny decisions we make without knowing their weight. Last month, I landed a full-time position at a design agency. I still have the delivery app on my phone, but it's been weeks since I've accepted an order. Ryan framed my final delivery receipt and hung it on our wall. Yes, our wall. We moved in together last month, a decision that felt both monumental and completely natural. His apartment was closer to my new job, so it made practical sense. But beyond practicality, there was something poetic about making a home in the space where our story began. The plot twist doormat still greets visitors, now a bit worn from use. We've added the sequel doormat inside by the kitchen, Ryan's idea of continuing the narrative. Our friends have embraced our origin story as legendary, the kind they tell at parties, making us recount every detail as if hearing it for the first time. Tell the part about the storm again, they'll say, settling in like children at story time. I've noticed how people lean forward when we reach the coffee shop scene, how they smile at the anniversary dinner reveal. Everyone loves a story where ordinary life suddenly reveals its magic. My mother, once skeptical, now refers to our meeting as divine timing. Ryan's parents, who I was terrified to meet, found our story charming. His father even joked about investing in food delivery apps, since they're apparently the new matchmaking service. At their anniversary party last month, Ryan's mom pulled me aside and whispered, "He was always so focused on his career. Thank you for delivering more than just food to his door." The irony isn't lost on me that I spent months feeling invisible as I moved through the city delivering meals, only to be truly seen by someone precisely because of that work. We both agree there's a life lesson in there somewhere. Recently, Ryan proposed a project we could work on together, redesigning those generic delivery bags into something more ergonomic and visually appealing. Me with the graphics, him with the structural design. "Think about it," he said, sketching ideas late one night. "We could help all those other delivery drivers out there. Who knows what doors they might end up walking through." The project feels like a perfect fusion of our skills and our story, a way of honoring where we started. Last week, my phone buzzed with a notification. For a split second, my heart jumped with that old Pavlovian response to the delivery app sound. But it wasn't a delivery request. It was a reminder from my calendar. 1 year since that stormy night. I smiled at the coincidence when thunder rumbled outside our window that evening. "Do you think it's a sign?" Ryan asked, looking up at the darkening sky. "Of what?" I replied, curling up beside him on our couch. "That some stories are meant to come full circle?" Later that night, as rain lashed against our windows, echoing that fateful evening, we sat at his dining table, our dining table now, eating soup and grilled cheese from that same comfort food place, this time delivered by someone else. I wondered briefly about the person who dropped off our food. What story were they living? What threshold were they about to cross? The delivery app still sends me promotional emails. "We miss you," they say, offering bonuses to return. Little do they know what they really delivered to me. Not just an income, but a future. Not just a customer, but a partner. Looking ahead, I can't predict where life will take us. We talk about traveling together, about maybe starting our own business someday, about the possibility of a family, big dreams that once seemed impossibly distant when I was living shift to shift. But I've learned not to underestimate the power of unexpected turns. Sometimes when we're out, I'll catch a sight of a food delivery driver rushing past with that familiar, focused expression, the one that says they're mentally calculating their next stop, their next tip, how to make their quota for the day. I always try to make eye contact, to smile, to tip generously when they bring our orders. Because now I know that every interaction, no matter how brief, carries possibility. Every doorway holds potential. Every ordinary moment might be the beginning of an extraordinary story. What seemed like a detour in my life turned out to be the main road all along. I thought I was just delivering his dinner. Instead, I was finding my way home. That's the thing about life's GPS. Sometimes the recalculating is the destination. Sometimes the wrong turn leads exactly where you're meant to be. So if you're out there hustling, moving through the world feeling invisible, remember my story. Remember that the routine that feels mundane today might be laying the groundwork for something remarkable tomorrow. The door you approach might open to more than you ever imagined, and the table you're delivering to, you might end up dining there yourself one day, looking back in wonder at how far you've come. Our love story started with a delivery notification. What unexpected ping in your life might be trying to tell you something? Comment below with your own chance encounters that changed everything. And if this journey made you smile, like and share so others can be reminded that magic happens in the most ordinary moments. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that prove life's algorithm sometimes gets it perfectly right.